Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. So I might just post the one video today. I'm not entirely sure. I am sort of thinking about doing like a Dead City finale video, sort of predictions going into tonight's episode of Dead City because it is the final episode. But I do also have a lot of stuff going on right now in terms of planning my meals and just like a lot of stuff like planning workout routines. If you guys aren't familiar with it yet, I did start a vlog and it's going to be sort of like getting into shape and all that. And there's a lot more to it too. There's just a lot more of like other stuff with my life and all that I'm going to be featuring in the vlog. But I did create that. I'm starting to do that now. The first episode's already out. Second episode is coming out this Sunday and it's on my Patreon. If you're interested in it, the link is in the description. And if you are interested in joining and supporting me on there, I definitely I appreciate it so much. So yeah, I have a lot of stuff I have to get through in terms of that and just filming a lot of that. And because tomorrow and the next day are going to be pretty crazy in terms of Walking Dead content, I'm like, you know what? Maybe just do the one because there's not like there's a lot of news out today. And a lot of video ideas I do have, I can't really do yet anyways. I sort of have to wait until all the news breaks so that I can kind of fix it a little bit and maybe change some ideas based off of some new footage that we get kind of thing, right? So I figured today is sort of an off day. I might as well get all my stuff done in terms of that, and then I'll do a Q&A here. So first of all, thank you so much for posting all of your questions. I really do appreciate all of that. If you want to take part in these Q&As, definitely just go follow me on Discord. The link for that is also in the description of this video. But before we go any further, obviously, make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all of my Walking Dead content like this. But let's get into the first question here. So, Q&A, do you think they will/could announce which or if any of the spin-off shows will get more seasons? I mean, the thing is, like, that's the one thing about it. Like, you know, they could talk about, first of all, like the Rick and Michonne show. They could talk about that being a limited series, and it almost doesn't mean anything unless, like, the AMC boss or something says, no, it's just a limited series. If it's the actors or even the writers and stuff like that, like, you know, like, it depends. I guess if any of them are saying, no, we're just doing 6 episodes, that's it, and it's over, then it's for sure done. But if they're talking about it like, oh, it's 6 episodes, it's a limited series, like they're just kind of saying what it is, right? And every show is just that until they're renewed for another season. So it's so hard to kind of, you know, say in terms of all of that. Like they could say whatever they're going to say, but like they all probably want another season. It just depends, is AMC going to renew it for another season, right? And they most likely will. In terms of the Rick and Michonne show, that's a limited series. That could still definitely be renewed for a second season. And you know AMC is going to want to do that. It's just, will Andrew Lincoln, will Denai Guerrero want to do that? It depends on what the story is. It really depends on that. It depends on their schedules and all that. That's why I think it's a limited series, though. Like, that's really why I think it's a limited series, because I don't think either of them want to go back and do a show for 4 or 5 seasons. And so to have the next 4 or 5 years be like a regular sort of scheduled show that, you know, they filmed for these months and it's always just, you know, like that sort of lifestyle, because they had to do that for years and they're probably over that at this point. That's why I think it's a limited series, because for limited series, it's not yearly sort of thing. Like Daryl Dixon's probably going to be out every single September, October. You know, the Dead City's probably going to be out every June. They could change the months a little bit, but it's going to be out every single year. The Rick and Michonne show, if it's limited and they get a second season, they can wait 2 years to release it, even 3 years to release it if they really wanted to. They probably wouldn't wait that long, but they don't have to have the second season come out in 2024. They can have it come out in 2025 if they want to, right? Because it's limited. So in that sense, I kind of understand why they're doing that, and I think that's why, like, ultimately why it's a limited series. But I could be wrong. Again, it could still just be 6 episodes, but just based off of the story, based off of what they did for filming, it just doesn't really add up. I still think there's going to be another season. So I don't know if they're going to address that too much. You know, like they could, I mean, it would be amazing if they did, definitely. But it's one of those things where I think they're just going to wait until the show, you know, releases, and then we'll find out. And I think the same thing goes for Daryl Dixon and Dead City. Dead City season 2, I could see them announcing that for sure. But that's the thing too. Daryl Dixon season 2, I could see them announcing that as well, because they're actually filming it. So it's one of those things that is actually kind of tricky. Like, it's, again, and with this strike too, the strike might postpone any sort of announcement, because they're like, well, we can't even film for a while anyways. We might as well just wait for that to end, and then we can announce all this stuff, right? So it's we're in a weird area right now. We'll have to wait and see. But They're definitely going to be renewing at least one of the shows for season 2. I could see Dead City for sure getting renewed, like specifically because the show is ending like this weekend, right? So I think they'll do it because of that. Q&A, do you think that they could announce another season of the Rick and Michonne series? So I guess, like I already did sort of talk about this a little bit, I guess to give an official answer, no, I don't think they're announcing that this year. I don't think that really makes too much sense right now because that show is still pretty far away from coming out. Q&A, do you think there will be any big Fear the Walking Dead updates, maybe a hint of another time jump, like hints of Troy's return, or spoilers for variants in the show? It is probably the least exciting Walking Dead universe show, but its release date is close. Yes, there's probably going to be, I mean, that's the thing too, I guess. That's the hard thing about it is if the strike wasn't happening, I'd be pretty confident that we might get confirmation of Troy's return. Other stuff, just information about the show. Because the actors can't be there, because the writers aren't going to be there, it's very hard for me to say with like full confidence that we're going to get that type of information because I don't really know what to expect from the event. I sort of expect just like an executive from AMC to be standing up there and then just like featuring a bunch of stuff like it's like this presentation and talking about this show, this is what to expect. This show is about this and that, and we're doing whatever, and here's this and whatever, and then maybe taking some questions from, from the fans. Like, I kind of see it playing out like that, and then maybe we get answers there, but like it's yeah, this year is definitely very tricky for Comic-Con. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. We still don't have any information, but again, today is like one of those off days where it is just very quiet. Tomorrow, I think, is going to be where everything just gets very crazy because it's the day before Comic-Con. We're probably going to learn a lot more information on just like what is happening and etc. So then for sure we'll know. But yeah, for Fear the Walking Dead, I guess to answer your question, I do think we are likely going to be getting some updates on the story and stuff, and we'll see just sort of how everything plays out with all of that. Q&A, do you think there's a chance that they could announce more spin-offs in the works? I'd love another story like early Walking Dead where they're trying to survive the outbreak. I could see that. That's actually one thing I could totally see them announcing. It's just like, yeah, we're going to do this other spinoff. But like, I don't think they're going to do another spinoff on just something random like that. Like, if anything, it's going to be like Tales of the Walking Dead Season 2. Like, that's more of what I see them announcing if they're going to do anything. Because Tales of the Walking Dead, like, that show is meant to sort of cover stuff like that. If they were to do another spinoff where it's like entirely brand new, focused on like brand new characters, much like Fear the Walking Dead was, like that's just a lot to do right now, considering all of the spinoffs that you have out, right? I don't think they're going to do that. So I think if anything, they could announce a Tales of the Walking Dead Season 2, but it depends on if AMC wants to do it because it never even got renewed for Season 2 yet, right? Gimple has said that he's wanted to sort of do another season, but like, he would definitely do it a lot better because he's talked about the fact that Season 1 was supposed to be a lot better than it was, which I don't really understand why it wasn't then, but like, yeah, whatever. That's always been my concern with certain things, and I think that's why the writing here and the budget and stuff for these spinoffs is really high, and obviously we can see how great these spinoffs are doing so far, at least so far with Dead City anyways. I imagine the other two are going to be just as good, but that was my worry before, was just like, I really felt like some of the writing just got, I don't want to say lazy, but it's like they kind of just did whatever at some points. And like, you look at Tales of the Walking Dead, you look at World Beyond, they were just sort of doing whatever. Like they just, I don't want to say like bare minimum, but we weren't seeing what we got on Dead City. Like it wasn't the same thing. Like right now, there's a noticeable difference. Like right now, there's actually a noticeable difference in the quality of the writing and just of the storytelling, acting, directing, like everything. And I'm not saying those shows had like horrible like elements of all of that. Like obviously World Beyond had some really good visuals. Like there's some of the writing's all right, and like directing, acting and stuff was good, but it's just like it felt like the effort wasn't entirely there, and they were more going into places where you really didn't need to go. You were just going into a lot of just extra stuff that you kind of wanted to get into, like doing the weird stories, like they've talked about doing a musical before. Like, I don't know if anyone's going to really care for that. Like, I know some people will, but it's going to be a very small audience. And again, like that might just hurt the overall brand. And that's what I mean. So just, yeah, I think definitely stay away from that. I mean, they haven't talked about doing a musical in a while. So that's a good sign. They probably just like dropped that, honestly, once they saw how Tales of the Walking Dead did. And that's why I think they never got a season 2. And I think that's why they sort of woke up. And I think that's why we're getting these crazy like high budget stories here with these spin-offs, because there's a big difference here. Q&A, with San Diego Comic-Con coming up, I've been thinking about the future of this franchise. Do you think this franchise could still be here into the 2030s? So there could be more story after the CRM, kind of like how MCU has different story arcs. Well, yes, I can definitely see that. Like, that is something that, I mean, first of all, yes, that is going to be a thing, but they'll just focus on other characters like Judith and etc., right? Like, they'll just be much older. They'll probably do other things. Like, they're probably going to do that. It just really depends on some of the, the other actors and what they want to do with just story elements there. Like, say they don't kill Daryl off, like, is Daryl going to stay around for a while? Like, when do they kill Daryl off, right? That is something that I'm just kind of curious about. And right now, the CRM, just with where they're going right now, that's the present. That's the next 5-year plan sort of thing. And that takes us to like, what, 2028? And when we're there at that point, I mean, it depends. Like, at that point, people are going to be talking about like, well, we haven't seen Aaron, Ezekiel, or maybe even Judith and etc. for a very long time now. So like, do we want to reintroduce them back to the show? And then it could be exciting then, right? Like, it all depends on what's happening and what they're planning to do. And I do think it's probably going to be going into the 2030s for sure. Like, there's just a lot that they're able to do. I mean, they could introduce Lee and Clementine, right? Like, I mentioned that in a recent video. I just mentioned a little thing about it. Like, Lee and Clementine, you bring that story here, you turn that into a show, literally a 4-season show. That show is going to be very successful. People are going to watch that. Like, it's going to be so big. You would have to expand, I think, on certain parts to make it a little bit more just, and you would have to change a lot of stuff too. You couldn't have Lee and Clementine run into like Glenn and Herschel, right? Like, you're just not able to do things like that. So you would have to change the story a little bit. It would have to be based on the game and not be the actual game. You couldn't have the characters run into Jesus. I'm pretty sure in season 3 they run into Jesus. So like, you couldn't do things like that. You would have to change it a little bit. Although I guess Jesus is a character that you probably could still use in that way. But again, like, timeline wise and stuff, I mean, I guess you could just do that. You would set it to like the early apocalypse, and based off of where the story eventually ends up, I guess you would just sort of wonder, like, where is Clementine now? Like, all these years later, she'd be grown up. And then maybe there's a spinoff there where you focus on Clementine as an adult, right? Like, there's definitely a lot of potential there, and again, it all depends on the deal that could be made there, because the game is owned by, like, Telltales, but it's also, I think, owned by Skybound now. I'm pretty sure Skybound owns that entirely, so it's just, do they make a deal with AMC on that specifically? I'm not entirely sure of all the issues there, but I imagine that is something that potentially could be worked out in the future, and I could totally see a show about those two characters, Lee and Clementine, coming out. Like, they gotta do that. Like, that story is so iconic. Q&A, what do you think of the theory that variant walkers got retconned for a second time and likely won't be seen in any of the upcoming spin-offs? I don't think they've been retconned at all. I just think that they're in certain regions. Like, I don't see them being retconned because people want them. Like, the Walker King that we literally just got the other day in Dead City in episode 5. People freaked out about that. That was like the coolest thing we've ever seen. Honestly, I'm thinking of all the walkers that I've seen on The Walking Dead, that might be the coolest one. And I'm actually being serious about that. Throughout the entire history of the franchise, that is probably the coolest walker I've ever seen and the most exciting one. Like, I would actually get like a figure of that or like a statue thing of that or whatever if they ever released one with like a season 1 like 4K Blu-ray of Dead City. Like, I would so get that. Like, I'm not even kidding. So in terms of the variant walkers being retconned, I don't think that's the case. Like, they sort of explained it that anyways. Like, if you look back to the final season of The Walking Dead, there were those variant walkers that were there, but there was also normal walkers that they dealt with still at the same time. So I think these variant walkers are just sort of mixed in and they're just kind of around, like, they're obviously not in New York City, at least not yet, but that's the thing. Like, I feel like they're saving little things like that for like a second or third season. Then we'll see different variants of walkers sort of around, right? Daryl Dixon, like, we know for a fact there's going to be those walkers that are there, and we'll just kind of see how that plays out. The Rick and Michonne show, though, that's where I don't think we're probably going to see a lot of that, because the story there is so much different. The story for the Rick and Michonne show doesn't have those other elements there. That is so focused on Rick and Michonne, and the CRM, and like, just those big world events like that. Like it's the variant walkers aren't necessarily necessary to a lot of that, but we'll see where the story goes, obviously. But I don't think they've been retconned at all. I just think that it kind of makes sense if you're looking overall at what's happening. So anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.